Tonight, keeping watch, the government's new move to control notorious criminal Mark Hayden. He helped cover up the Snowtown serial murders, but will soon be free.
An elderly man rushed to hospital, injured in yet another suburban tree fall, this time at a funeral.
Inside the home of an animal hoarder, why the RSPCA says it needs more powers to prevent this.
Is South Australia's shipbuilding future about to be torpedoed by federal government cuts?
And happening now, long flight delays in Adelaide as a result of Sydney's storm strikes.
This is Adelaide's 9 News with Brenton, Ragless and Kate Collins.
Good evening. The government is tonight taking urgent steps to try to put controls on the key accomplice to the Snowtown serial killings ahead of his release.
It's lodging urgent Supreme Court action and rushing new laws through Parliament too, while the Parole Board is simultaneously making moves of its own. Otherwise, the notorious criminal walks free into the community with no supervision in less than 3 months' time.
He helped to cover up Australia's worst serial killings.
Mark Hayden was convicted in relation to some of the most horrific crimes this state's ever seen. It is burnt into the psyche and the memory of South Australia.
And now the government wants to ensure Mark Ray Hayden can never pose a risk again. He spent 25 years behind bars, but that sentence ends in May when the 65-year-old will walk free. And because his full sentence has been served, there would be no keeping watch over him. The government today announcing it's stepping in with a rare application to the Supreme Court in a bid to keep watch on the Snowtown accomplice.
I can announce today that the Attorney-General has issued instructions to Crown to pursue an extended supervision order against Hayden.
It's the government's position that Mr Hayden falls within the definition of a high-risk offender. That is, he assisted after the fact in a very serious, violent set of crimes.
Hayden was one of 4 arrested over the serial killings in 1999 when some of the bodies were found in barrels in a disused Snowtown bank vault. He assisted in 7 of the murders, including his own wife. If the government's application's granted, it'll mean even when released, Hayden will still be monitored and bound by strict controls, which can include electronic monitoring and curfews.
Our job as a government is to make sure we are doing everything we can to keep the community safe.
The Parole Board is due to meet tomorrow to decide whether Hayden should be granted early release, another move aimed at monitoring him rather than just setting him loose. A decision on that is expected in coming days. The government is also trying to bolster its Supreme Court application by changing the law before the hearing. It will change the definition of a high-risk offender to make it clear that it includes anyone who assists in or covers up a murder. That legislation will be fast-tracked to Parliament tomorrow.
Beth, thank you. An elderly man is tonight in hospital after being hit by a falling tree branch at Cheltenham Cemetery. Witnesses telling 9 News he was at a funeral service before being struck and knocked unconscious.
A 72-year-old man stretchered into the Royal Adelaide Hospital.
Everyone was coming in to have a funeral for the burial, and then one of the big branches fell down and fell on someone.
A witness telling 9 News the man was struck on his head by the large branch, knocked unconscious before dropping to the ground during a service at Cheltenham Cemetery. Others managed to move out of the way, alerted by a loud crack as the branch broke. A person attending the funeral describing what she saw as traumatising. The service put on hold as paramedics were called around 11:30 this morning.
I saw quite a crowd surrounding the ambulance and I was like, well, damn. So something serious has obviously happened.
It's less than 2 weeks since a 22-year-old woman was killed by a falling branch in the North Adelaide parklands. Security vision captured a near miss in Kensington Gardens last week too. A statement from the Cheltenham Cemetery released today, explaining it continually assesses the trees at the cemetery with the assistance of private contractors. Their records showing the trees in this section were inspected 3 months ago.
For the people that were there, because they would have had to have stood around and it would have been either a friend or a relative that it had happened to. Yeah, so not a good thing.
The area around the tree here remains cordoned off to the public this evening. Cemetery management says it is now reaching out to the man and his family, and we're told he is stable and continuing to recover in hospital tonight. Kate?
Thank you, Shannon.
The RSPCA has rescued more than 100 animals, mostly dogs, which were being hoarded in squalid conditions by negligent breeders in the state's mid-north. Investigators say it's one of the most horrific cases they've seen and highlights major failures with current laws.
Room after room littered with small dogs. In squalid conditions and riddled with health issues, RSPCA officers discovered over 100 animals at the Mid-North property.
This was one of the worst cases of neglect and hoarding that we have seen.
A tip-off from the public led them to the remote property back in November 2020, and 4 years later the case was finally settled in court last week.
RSPCA need more powers to ensure that this sort of situation doesn't happen.
Inspectors say 2 women aged in their 60s were operating the puppy farm, which over a long period of time spiralled out of control.
The 2 women were selling the dogs to pet shops. They were also selling them to a third party.
Slowly, the animals would nurse back to good health, costing the RSPCA nearly $50,000, a far cry from the $500 bond that the convicted women were slapped with.
A review is currently underway by the state government looking at the Animal Welfare Act, the Premier promising tougher laws and harsher penalties for people who harm animals.
Our puppy farm regulation will be stringent. It'll be the tightest in the country. That's what we've committed to and that's what we'll deliver.
A promise the RSPCA is determined to see delivered. Keziah Sullivan, 9 News.
A routine call-out turned violent for 4 firefighters at Taparoo last night. Police say they were responding to a small bin blaze at a Strathfield Terrace property when they were assaulted by 2 men.
They are shaken up. It's certainly a confrontational thing.
It is traumatic for anybody having to respond to an incident like this.
The firefighters weren't badly hurt. 2 men in their 30s have been charged and were released on bail.
A man has been rescued after falling off the rocks of a breakwater at North Haven. Emergency services using an inflatable rescue boat to winch the 24-year-old to safety after he got into trouble around 7 last night. He was taken to hospital with leg injuries.
The fate of hundreds of workers hired to build the Hunter-class frigates out at Osborne will be decided tomorrow. Ollie Haig is at Osborne tonight. Ollie, it's believed the $45 billion program will be scaled back.
Yeah, certainly right, Kate. The Prime Minister and Defence Minister are tipped to confirm tomorrow that there will be a scaling back of the Hunter-class frigate program. The original commitment was to order 9 ships, but it is now looking increasingly likely that it will be 6. Now, currently there is about 1,500 workers that operate on the Hunter-class frigate program. The expected scale back is part of a sweeping restructure of Australia's Navy, with the long-awaited results of the Surface Fleet Review to be handed down. It is believed the federal government will honour its promise for continuous shipbuilding here until the AUKUS submarine program starts. The big question, though, remains how the federal government will do that, with both SA and WA needing a pipeline of work, and there's speculation the West will end on top.
It sounds like Western Australia will be the big winners out of South Australia's ultimate failure.
6 frigates would also have to be accompanied by a plan about what follows. What we need, though, is a continuous build.
Now, Kate, the announcement will be made in Sydney tomorrow. We are told that it is likely that the federal leaders will jet into Adelaide on Wednesday to make the sell to SA workers.
Ollie, thank you. A woman accused of murdering her elderly parents with insulin overdoses has now also indicated she will fight allegations that she breached her bail. Rehn was released from custody on home detention, but was allegedly seen at shopping centres and other locations breaking the rules. The 63-year-old has been released again, and today a court was told the 5 bail breach charges will likely be contested. She'll face court again in May.
An arson investigation has been launched at Elizabeth. A commercial building on Langford Drive reported on fire just after 11:30 last night. It was extensively damaged, though fire crews prevented the flames from spreading to adjoining properties. Police want to hear from anyone who might know more.
4 people have been struck by lightning near the Sydney Opera House amid a ferocious 3-hour storm. The group was sheltering near a tree when they were hit. All 4 taken to hospital. 75,000 strikes in total have been recorded. The weather has also impacted flights at Sydney Airport, which has been reduced to using just one runway. And the effects of that are being felt at Adelaide Airport tonight. Gus McDonald, Sydney-bound passengers have been stranded for hours.
Yeah, they have, Kate, and right now passengers who were scheduled on a 2:30 p.m. Qantas flight to Sydney are only just boarding now. Heavy thunderstorms and lightning are being blamed for delays out and in of Adelaide all afternoon. Rex, Virgin and Qantas flights have been affected and they've only just begun resuming a short time ago. I spoke to some very frustrated flyers this afternoon, some of who were upset they hadn't had enough communications from their carriers, but others were accepting that there was very little they could do but to wait it out.
I'm pretty lucky if I have to stay, I can go home, but I know there'd be a lot of people that it'd be very inconvenient.
There's nothing you can do about it. We're retired, so we're going to see our 2 sons. So a bit disappointed, but what do you do about it?
Well, it just kept on getting delayed, and then it was gate 10, and now it's gate 21, and now it's delayed again.
There are another 4 flights to Sydney due out tonight. 1 has already been cancelled and 2 of the other 3 are already showing delays. And Brenton, with more thunderstorms predicted in Sydney this week, flyers are being urged to be aware of any changes made by their airlines.
Good advice, Gus. Thank you. A request from the West tonight for more patrols to intercept boats carrying asylum seekers or illegal fishing crews. Labor Premier Roger Cook made the call as an ugly clash over Australia's border policy broke out.
In our largest state with its huge coastline, tonight a plea from Perth.
We need to have a greater presence on those coastlines. It's a vast coastline.
Western Australia's Premier addressing Cabinet today as more than 35 asylum seekers spent their first full day on Nauru.
The reason the boat got there is because the government has suspended or cancelled surveillance flights. That's the problem.
Peter Dutton will continue to be a cheer squad for things that actually undermine our borders.
Surveillance flying time is below current targets, despite concerns people smugglers are adapting their methods for faster drop-and-run style voyages.
I tell you the other thing they do is that they market comments from someone like Peter Dutton, who's a former minister, who knows exactly what the impact of these comments are.
Well, I just think if we stick our heads in the sand and pretend that nothing's happening here and just take the Prime Minister at his word, we'll end up with an armada of boats.
Under the previous government, boats also made it to Australia. We didn't make a big deal about it because we know that you are helping the people smugglers when you do that.
Today, an unrelated freed detainee faced court over breach reporting conditions. The argument over asylum isn't new and it isn't edifying, but it is still politically potent.
Are these people on temporary protection visas? No, they're on Nauru. People who arrive by boat get sent offshore.
I can tell you now, you start getting those boat arrivals here, I'd say his government's all but over.
Charles Croucher, 9 News.
The rental market is being described as a slow-moving train wreck, with some Adelaide suburbs recording increases of as much as 42% in a year. If the issue isn't addressed soon, analysts warn widespread homelessness could follow. Here's finance editor Chris Kohler with more.
Renters were described as facing a crisis, but analysts now say it's getting much, much worse.
It's actually been a slow-moving train wreck.
Social media is awash with videos of long lines and desperate applicants. Not only is competition fierce, but prices have jumped 10% nationally in a year.
We've got an acute housing shortage across the country. It is hitting the capital cities. It is also hitting our regions.
Some suburbs are reporting astronomical increases. The cost of renting a house in Holden Hill, for example, has skyrocketed 42% in the last year, jumping by $191 a week, while those looking for a unit in Norwood are also being squeezed out, paying 41% or $197 more than they were a year ago.
It's not just affluent localities. It's also standard suburbia.
9 out of 10 rental agreements are for 1 year or less, so almost all renters have been facing regular cost increases, and the task of finding a cheaper place to live has been getting harder. advocates are calling for caps on rental increases.
That's really urgent. Countries all around the world have limits on what a reasonable rent increase is. 50% is not a reasonable rent increase. We need to do something about this.
And with a federal election slowly entering view, calls from renters for help will likely grow louder. Chris Kohler, 9 News.
Meantime, first home buyers now have access to a new 2% deposit government loan. The new Home Start scheme was announced 8 months ago and due to come into effect in July, but has been brought forward. The catch is that it can only be used on new builds.
It has never been a better time financially for people to make this decision to get into home ownership.
First home buyers also have access to free stamp duty if they meet strict criteria.
A new road safety campaign launches tonight, giving drivers and passengers a confronting reminder to wear a seatbelt.
It's been a long time since we've done a commercial that is so graphic and is so powerful in terms of trying to get the message across. We know that from some of the research that we've done that people really want to know what the impact of these collisions actually are and what the reality is.
2023 was one of the worst years on record for deaths and injuries from failing to wear a seatbelt.
The Mammoth Taylor Tour has rolled from Melbourne through to Sydney in a swift trip on a private jet through stormy skies. But first, the pop megastar gave her thanks to the more than 250,000 fans who have already attended her sold-out Australian shows.
Fresh from creating history at the MCG, Taylor Swift, in red and sporting a Super Bowl champion's cap, boarded her private jet, leaving the sunny skies of Melbourne behind for a stormy greeting in Sydney. Touchdown, Taylor Swift. As bags were unloaded, 8-year-old Vivian stood in the rain with her pink guitar, waiting and hoping.
I still really want to see her because my mum tried to get tickets and she had 5 devices but she couldn't.
But the pop icon and her entourage were whisked from the airport, a military-like operation under tight control. Eagle-eyed security and more fans were waiting at the Crown at Barangaroo.
An opportunity to see her at least since I didn't get any tickets for the show. So I'm pretty excited.
The Swift motorcade taken into an underground car park. Over 3 nights, Taylor Swift delighted 288,000 fans in Melbourne. And it seems the feeling was mutual. The pop star posting, "Melbourne, that was unforgettable. You were on another level. Thank you for the memories." Now it's Sydney's turn. The flooring at Accor Stadium pieced together this morning ahead of 4 sellout shows. There are 4 days till showtime. Until then, Sydney is a city on Taylor Watch. Lizzie Pearl, 9 News.
Yeah, truly incredible. Well, Tom Rehn joins us now with a look ahead to sport. Ready, a huge suspension for an AFL bad boy.
Yeah, exactly right. Taron Thomas is the man, and it's fair to say this is a very big penalty. Hi, everyone. We'll be live to Tom Morris, who broke the story a little later on. Also ahead, the Crows set to welcome back some key players for Friday's pre-season showdown as a forgotten man at Alberton looks to cement his spot.
Thanks, Tom. We'll see you soon. The sole survivor of Victoria's deadly mushroom lunch breaks his silence.
Pastor Ian Wilkinson says his faith is as strong as ever. Next, his emotional address to his congregation.
And fringe performers bring lots of laughs and a little joy to children in hospital.
The lone survivor of the mushroom lunch that claimed 3 lives has finally broken his silence, addressing his local church. Gillian Lantouris can reveal Pastor Ian Wilkinson has provided an official statement to the Victorian Homicide Squad.
He's the key witness, and despite his loss, Pastor Ian Wilkinson continues to display his unwavering faith.
Let me encourage you to keep on going. The way is sometimes hard, but God is good.
9 News can reveal Mr Wilkinson has provided homicide detectives with a formal statement and is continuing to work with them as they investigate the 3 deaths. The pastor emotionally addressed the Corumburra Baptist Church last Sunday, honouring his late wife, Heather.
And yesterday was our 45th wedding anniversary. At the start of the week, was 6 months since Heather and Gail and Don went to be with the Lord.
It's not easy for him to be on his own in the home. He has to cope the best way he can. But it's nice to see him doing the service.
The now 70-year-old even drew laughter from the congregation.
Does anybody remember our series on Genesis that we began last year? It was dramatically cut short halfway through Genesis chapter 2.
Cut short after he, his wife and in-laws ate a beef Wellington dish suspected to be laced with toxic mushrooms in July, allegedly served by Erin Patterson, who was arrested in November and charged with 3 counts of murder, attempting to murder Ian Wilkinson and attempting to kill her estranged husband 4 times. Miss Patterson has spent nearly 4 months behind bars as she awaits her next court appearance in May. The mother of 2 has always maintained she's done nothing wrong and says she's grieving too. Gillian Lantouris, 9 News.
Olympic equestrian Shane Rose is jumping for joy after he was cleared of any wrongdoing for wearing a mankini in competition. The risque outfit was meant for fun, but a spectator took offence, putting his Paris Games hopes in jeopardy.
You may not recognise Olympic show jumper Shane Rose with his clothes on, because he's the man in the mankini who's left one fan in the equestrian world choking on their pimps.
I didn't hear anyone say anything negative, but unfortunately somebody took offence.
Others had a laugh.
That's Australian.
Made famous by Borat.
No, it is not a joke.
Rose trotted out the skimpy costume.
How long to get ready? He's got nothing on.
I can never unsee this.
For a show-jumping fancy dress competition at the weekend in New South Wales.
A lot of my friends are there and they're all laughing. Oh, my God.
But Equestrian Australia wasn't able to see the funny side, forced to act on the single complaint, standing down Rose from competition pending an inquiry.
If I've overstepped the mark, I'm sorry for that. I didn't mean to offend anyone.
Shane Rose taking his 3rd Australian Olympic team medal.
And late this afternoon, his pursuit for a 4th Olympic medal in Paris was back on track. After Equestrian Australia ruled the 50-year-old was in the clear, it's also reviewing minimum dress standards for future events.
I think everybody wanted to see a resolution very quickly.
Whether you like it or not, the sport of equestrian has an elite status. Maybe a little stuffy and for the upper class, but one rider in a mankini may well have helped break that stigma.
Holy Moses, all right.
Damien Ryan, 9 News.
The fun of the Fringe has been taken inside the Women's and Children's Hospital, complete with magic, balloons and bubbles, a little music and plenty of much-needed laughs.
So you guys are awesome.
Yeah, guys.
Excellent.
The performers were taken to the Starlight Express room, the hospital's medical free zone, and also onto the wards to ensure everyone could join in on the entertainment.
Well, 4 of Monarto Safari Park's chimpanzees are celebrating their birthdays this month. But while today was a big banana-filled bash, its visitors to the safari park are the ones who'll get the real presents. 2-for-1 entry is being offered between now and February 29. The birthdays being celebrated range from a 31st for the troop's 2nd oldest chimp, Gombe, down to Hope, who is turning 5. Well, another hot and dry day for Adelaide.
And Jessica Braithwaite, it's set to continue that way for most of the week.
Yeah, it sure started out that way today too, Brenton. It's quite a warm one. We've just hit our maximum of 33.6 degrees and it's actually quite a late maximum. That only happened after 6 p.m, which is unusual to be seeing the temperatures still warming at that time. It certainly has been a bit more enjoyable along the coast where we have had that cool breeze coming in here at Henley in particular. It's been a very popular spot to hang out. Temperatures just a few degrees cooler than in the northern suburbs. Tomorrow we'll feel hot again, a little bit muggier, perhaps a bit cloudier than today, but still warm with 33. And by Wednesday we're up to 35. We should start to see a shift in those temperatures from Thursday, drifting back into the 20s, and certainly by Friday. But no rain on the cards yet, and I'll have that forecast coming up very soon.
Terrific. Thank you, Jessica. It's the stuff of science fiction. AI psychology sessions.
How patients are using apps and chatbots for therapy. But there is a warning from health professionals. We'll have the details next.
And snubbed by the Oscars. But does Margot get her moment at the Baftas? We're there in London.
A few years ago, many of us would have called it the stuff of science fiction. But right now, millions of people around the world are seeking mental health therapy from an AI chatbot. And it may surprise you that psychologists are largely on board with the idea, which could become part of Australia's official health system within the next 2 years.
We're getting used to artificial intelligence in many parts of our lives. Now it's entering our mental health space. Apps and chatbots programmed by psychologists filling the gap between supply and demand.
The challenge is that there simply are not enough trained mental health professionals on the planet.
Meet Limbic, your personal therapy assistant.
In the UK, AI-powered psychology is already part of the National Health Service. 250,000 patients are using a bot called Limbic to get access to or support between appointments.
From the moment that we launched the app on our website, our referral rates have gone up by 32% and our access rates have gone up by 32%, which is incredible.
Limbic is the first point of contact for a patient, sending them to the right service. Private clinics use the app between appointments, helping clients through guided therapy, regular mood checks and crisis detection. Millions of people all around the world are right now using a chatbot called The Psychologist. It asks questions, thinks about its response before engaging with you further and offering advice. In effect, it's like having a therapist in your pocket whenever you need it. This app was designed by a psychology student. Experts warn it's not a substitute for professional help, but can augment it.
At 3 o'clock in the morning when something's on your mind, to be able to get some coaching around it from an AI bot, or to get access to information that is relevant to you based on your profile is incredibly useful.
In Australia, many psychologists are optimistic about AI, but say the government needs to step in with some regulation around ethical standards before it arrives.
It will come, and I think it'll be with us in the next few years.
Jane Azzopardi, 9 News.
More than 400 people have now been arrested in Russia for paying tribute to former opposition leader Alexei Navalny, who died in an Arctic prison. But it hasn't stopped the dedicated from laying flowers, with monuments continuing to grow in Moscow.
At least 26 people have been killed in a massacre in Papua New Guinea. Police say the men were shot dead in the country's Enga province. It's believed one tribe was on its way to attack another when they were ambushed. The killings are a major escalation in the area's tribal fighting. One person has been killed when police opened fire at the Rafah crossing in Gaza. A crowd had rushed to an aid truck which was entering from Egypt, taking white bags and running. Meanwhile, the Israel Defence Force says its fighter jets have struck Hezbollah infrastructure in southwest Lebanon. 2 police officers and a firefighter have been killed after being called to a domestic incident in the US. A man armed with multiple guns opening fire on them from several levels of a Minneapolis home. The firefighter had been providing first aid to an injured police officer when he was shot.
It's the biggest night in UK cinema, and the 77th British Academy Film Awards didn't disappoint, serving up Hollywood stars and British royalty.
Blockbuster Oppenheimer dominated the ceremony, taking out 7 categories.
Stepping into the London limelight, the film industry's biggest stars. On the Royal Festival Hall's red carpet, Margot Robbie staying true to her Barbie award season theme.
Anyone wearing pink now seems connected just through the colour alone.
Australian writer Tony McNamara also nominated for his work on Poor Things.
I get nervous like 10 minutes before the awards announced, I guess.
Last year's Best Actress, Cate Blanchett, in deep royal red, taking her place inside next to the Prince of Wales, Bafta's president. Not here, Australian Jacob Elordi, up for Rising Star and Best Supporting Actor in Saltburn. But Oppenheimer's Robert Downey Jr. delivered an early blow. This, the first of 7 wins of a possible 13 for Christopher Nolan's blockbuster. After being snubbed by the Oscars, there were Aussie hopes this might be Margot's moment. but it was Emma Stone named Best Actress.
I really want to just thank my mum.
Best Actor Cillian Murphy continuing his award season sweep.
One man's monster is another man's hero.
This party officially started. Held every year since 1949, the Baftas are the United Kingdom's most prestigious film awards. But it's also considered a precursor to the industry's biggest night of nights, the Academy Awards, which will be held next month. A standing ovation for Michael J. Fox as he presented Best Film.
And the BAFTA goes to... Oh, I can read it. Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer making the biggest impact, leaving everyone in its dust. In London, Edward Godfrey, 9 News.
The Adelaide membership that can unlock thousands in savings.
Coming up in 9 News, the huge menu of dining deals, including complimentary meals, upgrades and drinks across SA.
And the teenager accused of stealing thousands from a war veteran with a Netflix scam.
The RAA is partnering with some of South Australia's most popular venues to provide dining deals for its 800,000 members. From complimentary cocktails to more than $25 off dinner, 9 News can exclusively reveal which restaurants are offering the members discounts.
At the heart of Fino Vino is fresh produce.
We've got some kingfish from Port Lincoln. We have 4 vegetable dishes, so we work with local growers, so either from the Adelaide Hills or the Fleurieu Peninsula.
Now diners can try even more local food at the restaurant as the RAA launches a collaboration with SA venues.
The upgrade will give you a delicious dessert, and what best way to finish a meal with something sweet?
Connecting more than 800,000 members to local venues, from wineries to breweries, restaurants and pubs. The RAA has partnered with more than 30 of SA's most popular hospitality venues, offering a range of member deals, including Golding Wines. Save $25 when booking lunch. The National Wine Centre, members save $16 when purchasing a wine tasting and platter.
Living, I think we all know, is really putting a lot of pressure on a lot of households, but still our members say that they really love getting out and about and dining.
It means that people who wouldn't otherwise be able to get out will be able to come out and know that they can make a savings.
To redeem an RAA offer, members can reserve a table on the website or the app. Select the special option when booking, and on arrival, your table is waiting for you. Members who book in at Bobby's restaurant at the Hilton Hotel will get complimentary wood-fired bread and prosciutto, and on Fridays and Saturdays they'll also get a cocktail.
We've coordinated everything with RAA. It's going to be seamless, so yeah, we're excited for it.
Another 20 venues are set to jump on board, with even more deals set to be on offer in the coming weeks. Josephine Shannon, Cheers. 9 News.
A 71-year-old war veteran has been left with nothing after he fell victim to an elaborate Netflix scam. A teenager has since been charged, and as Neri Tai explains, Shane Arnold is fighting to get his money back.
At just 19 years old, Khalid Mahamud is accused of allegedly pulling off a sophisticated scam.
What do you want to say to the victims who've lost their life savings?
War veteran Shane Arnold lost $18,000.
I've worked for 50-odd years to get that money. He took it within a day.
The 71-year-old thought he was entitled to a refund after receiving a fake Netflix email, and after entering personal banking details,
I felt like my heart had been ripped out.
The accused scammer gathered enough information to call the following day, allegedly posing as a security officer from Commonwealth Bank.
Extremely convincing. He spoke in a posh, English accent.
Little did the grandfather know he was allegedly speaking to a teenager from Braybrook whose voice was disguised with AI.
He then said that your account's been compromised.
Shane was ordered to put his bank cards in a bag to be collected by a driver. Hours later, the accused allegedly withdrew thousands of dollars from ATMs and purchased dozens of gift cards from Kmart.
What happened to all of the money?
He filled up at Ampol and treated himself to a strawberry milk drink and Magnum ice cream, also allegedly splurging on a new iPhone.
We had nothing to live on for a fortnight.
Well, the court case has just started. Shane has been fighting to get his money back. He claims his bank is partly to blame. He's since lodged a report with the Australian Financial Complaints Authority. Shane claims Commonwealth Bank has only offered to reimburse him $1,000. CBA said Mr Arnold's case is currently being managed by AFCA.
The banks and the businesses are starting to put the onus back on the victim to say, well, you authorised the transactions.
But soon it'll be more clear cut with the federal government introducing a new scams code.
Where was the failure here? How did this scam get to the customer in the first place? And what, if anything, should the telco reimburse? What, if anything, should the bank reimburse?
I hope all those people who've been scammed get their money back.
Neri Tai, 9 News.
Well, the results are in for the best cars across certain categories for 2024, judged on price, safety and fuel efficiency. The Hyundai Kona took out best small SUV under $50,000. The top electric vehicle, also under $50,000, went to the MG4. The Ford Ranger was crowned best dual cab ute, while the Kia Carnival is number one family car under $80,000. And Australia's overall top car will be announced next on A Current Affair.
Well, Rehn is back with sport after the break. Some key crows are set to return,
including Darcy Fogarty Brenton, which is fantastic to see. More on that story up next. While across at Alberton, a sidelined power youngster is ready to make his mark, while another sinner continues his dominant run as he downs the demon. Hello again. We'll get to the Crows and Power in a moment, but first, North Melbourne's Taryn Thomas is facing almost a year on the sidelines following allegations of inappropriate behaviour. Nine's chief football reporter Tom Morris broke the story of Thomas's lengthy suspension and joins us now. Tom, what's the AFL decided on?
Well, as we go to air tonight, Tom, the league's official line is the investigation remains ongoing, but I understand the AFL Commission has determined Thomas will receive an 18-week suspension, and all that's left is for Thomas and his management to be formally notified, plus North Melbourne. That hasn't happened yet. Now, Thomas has not been at the club since mid-January as these allegations were investigated, and today at Arden Street, his teammates, well, they were understandably not too keen to weigh into the controversy.
You're disappointed about Taryn Thomas's suspension, mate?
Oh, I can't comment on anything at the moment.
An 18-week suspension, that's massive, isn't it?
Just ask the media team in there, they'll be able to say.
Are you disappointed to hear about the fact that Taryn's possibly been suspended, mate?
I haven't spoken to Dawn, so just chat to the media manager.
And Tommy, from a football perspective, this clearly has significant ramifications for Thomas himself. He's on at least $600K per year. He's out of contract at the end of 2024. He's going to be a free agent at the end of 2026 if he stayed. And if all went well, his next contract was due to be sizable, perhaps up towards $1 million per season. Now, Essendon came after him last year, and now it's not even certain if North will stick behind him once a penalty is confirmed, maybe even as soon as tomorrow. An 18-week suspension would see Thomas return at round 20 at the earliest. Tommy, it's not a stretch to say that his career is very much on shaky ground.
No question about that. Tom Morris with all those exclusive details. Fantastic work breaking that story. Well, a couple of key Crows will be thrust back into action for this Friday's pre-season showdown. Let's go live to Corey Norris with the latest. Corey, who's returning?
Well, Reddy, it's fair to say a number of Crows players haven't had the ideal preparation with a few injuries over the last month or so, but that list is about to look a whole lot better. Now, Darcy Fogarty trained today, shaking off the tight quad issue that kept him out of Friday's intra-club in Port Lincoln, and will be right to go to tackle the Power on Friday. Jordan Butts has been dealing with a bit of a hamstring injury that he suffered around about 3 weeks ago, but is believed to be in the mix to play some minutes on Friday night. But it is expected that Jake Saligo, who's recovering from an ankle concern, and Wayne Miller with his hamstring will spend another week on the sidelines, with both of those guys eyeing a return against West Coast Saturday week. So some positive news out of West Lakes, Rennie.
No doubt about that as well. Good stuff. Corey Norris live there. Let's go across to Alberton and Port Adelaide Speedster. Josh Sin has spoken of his relief at getting through Friday night's internal trial game unscathed. The 21-year-old has been sitting on the sidelines for the best part of 2 years. Now he wants his footy to do the talking.
Josh Sin could barely hide his relief for training.
Not only just to play well, but also to get through 4 quarters, and it's been a long time since I've been able to do that.
Friday night's internal showcasing the serious speed that saw him picked at number 12 in the 2021 draft. He burst onto the scene, but just as quickly disappeared into the medical rooms, playing just 4 games in 2 years.
I think I'm pretty sick of the talk of just getting through games, getting minutes done. I'm here to perform, so play AFL.
He learned plenty about his body's rehab and recovery, and even took up Pilates, which has given him the confidence to reignite the afterburners.
I feel like after last Friday, it's I feel pretty good, and I guess that sort of change of direction stuff, I feel like I'm pretty confident now. I can really explode now.
While Sin completed full training, there was no sign of Todd Marshall this morning, still recovering after having his foot trodden on, and is likely to be rested from Friday night's trial. But good signs for Asava Radaglia, showing no sign of the knee issue that ended his game early, while Alir, Jeremy Finlayson and Trent McKenzie will all train ahead of the hit-out with the Crows. Vicky Schwartz, 9 News.
Alex de Minaur thinks he's taken another big step despite being humbled in the final of the Rotterdam Open by Yannick Sinner. The Aussie fought hard against the Australian Open champion and had plenty of chances.
It's a jaw-dropping exchange.
In the end, Sinner proved a cut above, winning 7-5, 6-4, but was full of praise for his rival.
It's better if we see each other on the same side playing doubles than playing against, but you're one of the kindest guys on tour.
Yeah, nice compliment. The Italian has now jumped to number 3 in the world. Well, Dave Warner is about to begin his final tour of New Zealand before retirement, but the opener isn't expecting any love from the crowd, and he isn't giving too much back either, given the treatment he received on his last visit back in 2016.
The crowd, yeah, they got personal, but if they have to get personal, that's their character. I just go about my business, but that's upon each individual. If that's what they feel like they have to do, then so be it.
Still, it might be a bit more friendly than what England is copying from its own press. Bazball is being slammed after they lost to India by 434 runs. That's their heaviest defeat in 90 years. Not good. Well, beach volleyballer Chris McHugh has taken time out from training to try and inspire the next generation of Olympians on Kangaroo Island. The 34-year-old hopes history will repeat after he himself was motivated by visits from Josh Slack and Andrew Schott when he was at school.
Having those high-performance sports people come to your school and share their story, for me, definitely opened my eyes up to being able to do it professionally.
The two-time Commonwealth Games champion will attempt to qualify for his second Olympics by winning the Asian Cup in June. Let's hope he can do that.
Yeah,
that is the
sure.
sport.
Terrific. Thank you, Rennie. Well, cloudy, but still hot tomorrow. Jessica Braithwaite returns with the weather outlook next.
Now, though, a look at tomorrow's speed cameras. Stay with us.
Wake up and laugh with Adelaide's #1 breakfast show.
Rudits and Lows tomorrow on 104.7 Triple M.
For the latest Adelaide news and traffic.
Hello again. It has been an unusually warm evening around Adelaide. That temperature kept rising after 6 p.m, which we don't often see. We ended up making 33.8 degrees. Thankfully, there's a nice cool breeze coming in off the water here down at Henley tonight. We are soaking up those vibes at the Ocean Bar and Kitchen, and it certainly has been a popular place for people to head down after work and jump in the water to cool off. Around town today, it was hotter through the northern suburbs. We ended up getting up to 35 degrees around Mawson Lakes and also at Elizabeth. But as I mentioned, those cool breezes have kept things feeling a little bit nicer along the coast. It was 29 degrees at Glenelg today. We really got up there with the temperatures through the north, 44 at Coober Pedy, 43 at Roxby Downs. Pretty warm through the south too. Keith got to 35, but it was softer at the Mount with 28. Now, I know I've been saying this a lot lately, but it is still true. Here in SA, we are really just watching this high-pressure system. It's sort of down near Tassie, continuing to filter that warmer air over us for the next couple of days. Interstate, Sydney copped some huge storms today, 75,000 lightning strikes. Plus, we've got flooding warnings through the Kimberley and the threat that ex-tropical cyclone Lincoln could re-intensify to cyclone strength later this week. Tomorrow across SA, it is another hot one. We'll be in the low 40s from Coober Pedy down through to Port Augusta, 38 for Port Pirie, and a big drop-off actually to 29 at Port Lincoln. As we drift towards the southern coast, we're backing off a bit, 30 degrees for Kingscote, 28 at Victor Harbour, and 28 also the top for Mount Gambier. On metro waters, southeasterlies 10 to 15 knots, turning east to northeasterly in the late morning and early afternoon, reaching up to 20 knots north of Grange in the late afternoon. Tomorrow will be warm again around Adelaide. We've got 33 at Elizabeth and Noarlunga and 32 at Glenelg. It will feel a bit different today because it'll be a bit cloudy and maybe even a little bit muggy, maybe even just the outside chance of the odd random spot of a shower, but nothing amounting to anything, certainly not enough to water the garden for you. 33 degrees the expected top for Adelaide, with a warm night tonight too, probably staying above 20 degrees. After that, Wednesday will probably be the hottest day of the week with 35 degrees in the city. Starting to shift back with those temperatures on Thursday. We do have a change starting to work its way through. 29 degrees the top there, and then dropping back down to 22 degrees with a cloudy day on Friday, but still no rain in sight.
Thank you, Jessica. That is 9 News for this Monday. Thanks for your company.
More updates to come, but we'll leave you now with a current affair. Good night.